Good evening. This is Community Unity Now. This is Bill Morton, President of the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce, and I am Trudy Leong, Administrator of the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce. And this is Community Unity Now. Our very, very special guest today is Kevin Klena, who will be telling us about Medicare and Medicaid fraud. Kevin is also a retired Chicago police officer. Good evening, Kevin.
Hello. Hi.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we're very glad that we met you a couple of days ago, and you told us a little bit about what happened to you and your mother, unfortunately. And could you tell us more about what happened in January?
Okay. Well, on the 9th of January, my mother was taken by ambulance. She's 88 years old. She was taken by ambulance to Thoric Hospital. And from there, I actually never saw her again alive. What happened was I wasn't allowed to visit her. There was having trouble communicating with her because, you know, the nurses and everybody, they wouldn't accommodate you like you would think they would have. And so by the time I actually was able to, I never saw her alive again once she went in, due to Thoric's COVID policy, which said that they're not allowing people in to come visit their loved ones. My mother was 88 years old. She required 24-hour care. She was disabled. She had suffered 2 strokes, so she had communication issues and skills. And the bottom line is I should have been allowed to go visit her and advocate for her. I was her power of attorney, and I wasn't.
So the Thoric Hospital, first of all, Thoric Hospital is in what neighborhood of Chicago?
Uptown, it borders Uptown. It's the First Street in Uptown, on Irving Park Road, the even side.
And so you never spoke to your mother again and never saw her again after she was admitted?
We spoke to her on the 13th of, I never saw her live after she went in. I spoke to my mother on the 13th of January. The next day I got a call from a nurse on the 14th of January, basically saying that we know that you want your mother home and your mother wants to come home, but we're gonna have to send her to a facility that provides oxygen. And I said, well, send her home with oxygen. You know, she can have oxygen right here at the house. And they said, no, your mother isn't eligible for oxygen because she makes too much money. So I was actually forced to go out and actually buy oxygen out of my pocket, which I had no problem doing because it was my mother. And so I went and bought this oxygen. Actually, I bought her a portable along with a stationary concentrator. By the time these devices arrived, my mother was deceased. But the reality was, everybody knows about Medicare, Medicaid. They pay for oxygen. So what she was saying was factually untrue. And I didn't have any time to argue with her, fuss with her. I just wanted to get my mother home. So I went out and bought it. You can see it was like $2,400 and something that I spent on her to get her home.
So Kevin, you're the power of attorney, correct?
Yes, I do.
Is it legal for the Thoric Hospital to say no? You cannot see her. You cannot make a decision, and you cannot take her home.
No, it's not legal at all.
Were you able to?
It's actually illegal.
Were you able to speak with any social worker? Usually, social workers would take care of some paperwork. Did you speak to any social worker?
I'm glad you mentioned that. I had actually spoken to 2 attorneys, and one of the attorneys suggested that I actually go talk to the patient care advocate. His name happened to be Gerald, and I believe that was I have it written down, but his name was Gerald, and he actually went to the nurse's office that denied me the oxygen, and actually got a prescription from her. And that's how I was actually able to get the oxygen. You can only get the oxygen with a prescription from a doctor. But once again, by the time I got all of the stuff, my mother was deceased.
So
But
you
no, it's not legal for them to deny you oxygen.
so
It's illegal.
then were you able to get that prescription for the oxygen? Did some doctor write out a prescription for you so that you got it, even though it wasn't arriving in time?
Yes, actually, there was a prescription written out. I don't know if I have it with me, but I do have a prescription that was written out by Dr. Budaraju. This is the doctor that has been involved in named in 12 Medicare wrongful death lawsuits. This doctor right here. This
So
is
he
from
was
the Cook County. Can you see this? This is from Cook County's website. So he's been named in 12 lawsuits. And he was the doctor that was involved in the scandal at Sacred Heart Hospital. And they said at the last scandal, during the last scandal, can you see me?
So Dr.
Hello?
Budaraji was the physician in charge of your mother's care?
It appears to be. There was, we've determined there was about 15 doctors that got to see my mother over a 9-day period. So we've identified the 15 doctors and we reported them to, we've actually named them in the complaint. So there were at least 15 doctors involved that had seen my mother.
And the hospital, Doric Hospital, won't tell you which 15 doctors they are?
Oh, we have the list. We actually have a list of the 15 doctors. I have the list of the 15 doctors, yes.
And who
So
did what?
we know their names. We know who they are. Yes, we do.
So evidently they wanted your mother to stay at the hospital for what? And who were they going to charge for that care for the oxygen?
They wanted her to go to according to the nurse that said that my mother was not eligible for oxygen. They wanted her to go to a facility that provides oxygen. Now, if you look at what Thoric's affiliations are with the hospitals, the other day I mentioned Kindred. Actually, Dr. Budaraju has been named in lawsuits involving Kindred, maybe about 4 of them. If you pull the complaints and read them, Kendrick is named in the lawsuits, but he's still been allowed to work there. So I don't understand how you can be named in 4 lawsuits performing medically unnecessary surgeries or whatever you're doing, but yet still be working for Kendrick. Now, also, are you familiar with Bethany, the Bethany homes?
No.
I believe they're on Ashland. Thoric bought the Bethany homes about 2 years ago. It's the Bethany nursing homes. They bought them about 2 years ago. So I believe that they wanted to send my mother to one of their Thoric affiliated nursing homes so they could actually continue to profit on her. I actually remember making a statement in front of Gerald, in front of the ER, saying, okay, isn't this ironic that you all will not pay for oxygen, but yet you're willing to send her to a nursing home for $8,000 a month. This makes no sense to me.
What kind of care were they going to provide for your mother at Bethany homes?
They said that they need to send her to a facility that provided oxygen. That's according to the nurse that contacted me. They wanted to send her to a facility that provided oxygen, but as we all know, there's a lot of people walking around at home with oxygen tanks. You see them every day walking around, going to the stores and other places, and they have oxygen tanks. So why was my mother not allowed to have an oxygen tank?
So she requested
Why
it.
did I have
You
to
requested
purchase
it.
one?
She requested it. You requested it, and they said no.
And all
Yes,
you
they
wanted
said
to do
no.
was to bring her home, to have
Yes, they
oxygen
wanted
at
to
home.
send her to yes, they wanted to send her to one of their nursing homes.
So tell me about the intubation.
I didn't find out about the intubation until about a week after my mother's death. I actually found out about it through the discharge report, the Thorpe Hospital discharge report. And other than that, nobody contacted me about it. Nobody told me that my mother was worsening. Nobody said anything. Next thing I know, when I hear my mother's being resuscitated, she's fading fast. And then when I got the discharge report, that's when I discovered that she had been intubated and they had done a tracheostomy on her without anybody's approval or permission.
What day did they perform that surgery?
It looks like from reading all the paperwork the day of, within the last 24 hours of her death.
Okay, so they did the tracheostomy about 3 to 4 hours before she died.
Yes, within 24 hours of her death, yes.
Within 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And what did anybody give you a reason why nobody contacted you and got your permission for the intubation?
No, nobody. But this is a pattern and practice of him at this other Sacred Heart Hospital. This is documented by the FBI. This is what he does. It's all here. Do you all have a copy of that FBI report?
Well, you mentioned.
Did you get a copy? Yes, there's a 90-page complaint from Sacred Heart Hospital, and 14 pages are dedicated to Dr. Buduraju. 14 pages are dedicated to him. And this is what he does.
The hospital in which he worked at before, or is he still working?
Yes.
No, well, that hospital closed. Yes.
Yes, Sacred Heart is now closed, but this is his modus operandi. This is what he does, and it's all documented. It was on wiretaps and everything else of what he does, and he did it to my mother. He did everything that they said 10 years ago that he was doing. He actually did it.
But he
did everything.
But he was never charged. His
never
coworkers
charged.
Were found guilty?
About 11 co-workers were actually sent to prison, but for some strange reason, he was never charged.
Some strange reason? Why do you think?
Well, based on my research, that hospital is politically connected. That hospital, there's a man that sits on that board named Peter Camberos, okay? Peter Camberos. And if you know that name, that's supposed to be Maria Pappas is married to a Peter Camberos, okay? And also, there's, I actually sent you that too. There's, you can follow the money trail where all of the political donations are going all over the place. So I would think that if you were to complain to a lot of local politicians, you wouldn't get anywhere. But they're all there. Everything is documented. Everything.
What about the?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. What about the Cook County Medical Examiner? Did the Cook County Medical Examiner give a cause of death?
Actually, I got the death certificate right here. Her cause of death was, once again, I had actually requested that the Cook County Medical Examiner look at my mother's death because of the fact that this doctor had been involved in so many things. They denied me. I received a phone call from a Mr. Briggs, who was a medical examiner, says, no, we don't do that. So I'm like, okay, so I had to pay for a private autopsy. During that private autopsy, they found a pill. They said that the cause of death, according to this, the cause of death right here, okay, highlighted part right there. You see that right there? Cause of death, right?
Lung injury possible from COVID, or I can't read it. Can you read it to us, please?
Yes, that's what you're saying. Okay. It says the cause of death was acute lung injury, possibly from COVID or aspiration pneumonia. It says the diabetes also caused severe kidney disease and hypertension called kidney and heart disease. There was no evidence of abuse. The intubation and tracheostomy did not cause a death. It was not necessary for the heart, for the lung, heart, and kidney disease. On on hers, she has congestive heart failure, but she makes no mention of the pills lodged in my mother's throat that was at least there for close to 24 hours. I've determined. She makes no mention of, nothing. It's the COVID. She makes no mention of the aspiration pneumonia. She makes no mention of anything. Now, I'm kind of curious as to how many death certificates has this medical examiner signed for this doctor since back in the 90s. She was appointed. She just recently became the head Cook County medical examiner, but the Cook County commissioners actually appoint medical examiners. So they're all intertwined. If you I plan on, let me put it this way. I plan on doing a tree and showing the connections, but they're all intertwined. She came on the scene around 90. Mrs. Pappas was on the scenes around 90. She was a commissioner. Now, all of a sudden, I'm looking at Peter Camberos. You got him. And then you have also, it looks like Maria Pappas was actually advocating for private hospitals to take on some of the business of the county hospital. I'm wondering if she disclosed the fact that, hey, my family would directly benefit from this if should this happen. But I found an article from the Reader from 1992. It says, what does Maria Pappas want? And so it clearly says, she says, let's see, hold on. It said, Pappas finds both patronage offensive and expensive. There's all this talk that we build a new county hospital. Our mandate is to serve the poor, serve the indigent. How can you best serve the indigent? Within 15 minutes of Cook County Hospital, there are 1,000 vacant beds in various hospitals. There are 90 hospitals in Cook County. We got nurses that won't go to county hospital. We pay an extra $6.9 million a year for nurses at county hospital. Doesn't it make more sense to lease out space from various hospitals so we can better serve all these communities? Allow the burden of updated equipment to fall on the hospital that we're leasing from. So it seems like there's some type of advocate for the private hospitals to start doing business with Cook County. But once again, did she happen to mention that hey, if this should happen, what I'm advocating for, my family would in fact benefit. It's right here in the Reader.
Well, yes. Let's get a little clearer picture of why you had to get the private autopsy. No one was willing to sign your mother's death certificate, right?
Yes, my mother, she couldn't be buried for months. She was actually cremated, but she couldn't be cremated for months. This is what she wanted. She wanted to be cremated because nobody at Thoric would sign a death certificate.
And what reason did they give you for not wanting to sign the death certificate?
They gave no reason except that the people said they were extremely nasty. They were extremely nasty and rude. That's what they told me.
Okay. And then after you got your private autopsy, then the Cook County medical examiner assigned another death certificate.
Suddenly got involved to my surprise. I still to this day don't know how they became involved when they originally told me you have to go get a private autopsy. I don't know how that happened, except maybe a phone call came in, hey, take care of this. I don't know. I'm just speculating, but I just thought it was strange that all of a sudden you deny me, you reject me, and you tell me you're not going to do it, but then all of a sudden.
And what was the cause of that from the Cook County medical examiner?
The Cook County medical examiner was cause of death, congestive heart failure. But I'm looking at this, cause of death, congestive heart failure. But I'm looking at this, the date this death certificate was issued was 3/17/22. My mother's date of death was 18 January 22. Like almost 2 months.
Almost 2 months. And
Yes.
what were the charges that Doric Hospital billed for your mother's care?
Well, I'll be brutally honest with you. I've taken all of those bills and I've stuck them in a box, and actually a lot of them remained unopened. But I was getting calls from Thorpe Hospital, the billing department, and finally I said to him, I said, "So wait a minute, let me see if I got this right. Dr. Buduraju helped kill my mother, and now you want me to pay?" And I've literally never gotten a phone call from them since. That's actually what I said to them. Dr. Buduraju killed my mother, and now you want me to pay. So they just hung up in my face, and I've not received one phone call since that date.
Did you get any bills from Medicare, Medicaid, anything that has any record of what the procedures and what billing Doric Hospital had?
I actually did. I actually requested, because there's a hotline that you can actually call to actually request the billing, so you can compare to what the procedures that they did versus the procedures that you're charging for. I haven't actually taken the time to actually go through that because, like I said, I was on a time frame. I had to get a complaint off within 180 days. And I told you I could not get attorneys to actually, when you actually try to explain this to them, it's almost like a couple of friends of mine, they said, "Kevin, what you're telling us, if you didn't have things to back this up, I would think that you were crazy." So that's when you try to explain this to attorneys and other people, they don't. First of all they know about is medical malpractice. They claim to be civil rights advocates. They claim to be civil rights attorneys. They claim to be this and claim to be that. But what I found out based on my personal experience, it goes right over their head. They don't get it. And so, like I mentioned the other day, Title 18, Section 240, Title 18, Section 242. A doctor, a nurse, a caregiver can violate your rights just like a police officer can. They're actually all listed together in Title 18, Section 242. So I think, like, a lot of times people are stuck and they dwell on the fact that, okay, that's policemen violating my rights. But a lot of people really aren't aware that there are some doctors, nurses, and caregivers that are actually violating your rights as well. Title 18, Section 242.
So does your complaint centering on a violation of your mother's civil rights instead of medical malpractice?
Based on race, age, and disability, because Dr. Buduraju has a pattern and practice stemming from Sacred Heart Hospital. That was his preferred target based on the FBI and newspaper reports. He targeted mostly elderly, vulnerable, disabled, mostly blacks. That's who he went after. And it's documented, it's written down.
Those were the cases that were at Sacred Heart Hospital, is what you're saying?
Yes.
And because of those cases of Medicare and Medicaid fraud, Sacred Heart Hospital closed?
Yes, they closed, yes.
Mm-hmm. So is your complaint centered on Dr. Buduraju, or is it centered on Thoric Memorial Hospital, or both?
Both. My complaint is based on both. There's a thing in the law called corporate willful blindness. Corporations have a responsibility, if they think or suspect something might be wrong, to actually do some due diligence and to uncover it. They cannot turn a blind eye legally, according to the Supreme Court. So also with Dr. Buduraju and Thorpe Hospital was listed in a lawsuit as early as 2010. Now keep in mind, the Sacred Heart scandal broke in 2012. So it was in Cranes, it was in Bangor News, it was in it was all over. It was on WTTW. They had a segment on them, and they actually said this may be Physician D. They said we've identified somebody that has the same position as Sacred Heart Hospital as this man right here, Dr. Budarajan. So now, with a simple Google search, if I was able to uncover this and dig and dig and dig and dig and dig, and one thing led to another, why isn't that Thoric Hospital being politically connected? You're telling me they didn't know who he was? They knew. They knew exactly who he was. So no, my problem is with Thoric Hospital and with Dr. Budarajan, both of them.
So what you're saying is that the press and in a lot of the documents they named Dr. Such and such a letter, but they wouldn't name him by name. But he is the only physician that would fit that description at Sacred Heart Hospital.
According to Cranes, they did an article called this maybe Physician D. Let me see if I have it for you. But
oh no, that's okay. What we really want to know is what about what do you have any idea about what happened at the Sacred Heart Hospital with those fraud cases? Did it come out at the trial? Were there any deaths that were similar to your mother's, and any or since a lot of the situations were similar, did those patients die as a result of this Medicare fraud?
yes, there were, like you said, there were at least the FBI wanted. I want to say the FBI identified as many as 30 people involved, but so far I've only been able to identify about eight people. So 4 directly tied to Dr. Budarajan. 4 directly, and that's all been submitted to the to HHS, the Department of Civil Rights. But eight of them indirectly, 30 of them total. 30 total according to the complaint.
Well, Kevin, thank you so much for sharing this with us. It was very difficult for you, and so sorry that you lost your mother. This is Kevin Klena, who shared with us information about Medicare, Medicaid fraud. This is Bill Morton, President of the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce. I am Trudy Leong, Administrator.
And so sorry for your loss.
Thank you very much. But I would like to say all of this is online. All of
Yes.
this is online. Everything I
Sorry,
have is
Kevin.
online.
We are out of time. So sorry, but we'll follow up with you. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Have a good night,
Okay.
and thank you for watching.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. Take care. Goodbye.
Yes.